Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to um, our United States of Africa um, audience, and also for the Haitian American Collaborative audience. It's been a while since I've been on, but it's glad to be back. Happy new calendar year, even though I do the new year in the spring, but it's been thus happening. But I guest for today. His name is Ryan Robertson, and he's actually quite magnificent, especially as a young Black male, and his abilities and what he has created through his company, Conduit, and his technologies. Um, Nanosplash. If I said that wrong again, I'm so sorry. But I don't want to get too involved. I just want you to get to know him first. But he is brilliant. He was studying Harvard classes by 16, entered MIT by 18, and was one of the youngest people to be working with the White House as well in our current pandemic situation. And just getting a feel for someone who is an educator on a scientific level, I've been amazing, especially who need more advocacy in the medical field. That being said, I would kindly like to introduce you to hopefully a new friend of mine, but definitely a guest to our show and a friend to our platform, Ryan Robinson again. So I'll just bring him in.
Hey everybody.
Hi, how are you? So glad for you to be by and be with us today. Um, I also love the fact that you're a part of the East Coast with me, and we're both in the U.S.
Yeah,
too. So that's kind of cool because it's usually like I'm interviewing someone. It's kind of cool to see you right here
yeah,
with me. But I don't want to minimize your introduction. I just want you to be able to give our community a little glimpse about you through your own voice, right? So please don't think I'm minimizing you, but just
no,
let us
no, no, not
understand.
at all. Thank
Right,
you.
good, but just let us understand Ryan Robertson through his own words in the past that he came from. Who is Mr. Robinson?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for having me here. Diana, thank you so much for hosting this interview.
Very
Guys,
welcome.
thank you for everything. So, my name is Ryan, Ryan Robinson. You guys can call me just Ryan. I'm from Miami, born and raised. My family is from the Caribbean. My dad's side's from the Bahamas. My mom's side's from the South. So, yeah, so all the food you can imagine, lots of rice, all the sides. And so, born and
Right.
raised in Florida, I'm a Florida boy at heart. And I grew up around a lot of uh, older people, older people, because my grandma was
Mm,
a big fixture in my life. So constantly around that OG wisdom, those old heads,
yes,
So really,
yes.
really love that. And and so in school, of course, school is one of the big things for my story. I started taking classes while I was 16 at Harvard. One class, an example, was intellectual property, a law class. Giving my context, my dad's a lawyer, my mom is a paralegal. That's how they met, the legal system.
Mm,
So as a rite of
nice.
passage, I had to have a legal class in there somewhere. And actually, shout out to my mom. My mom actually started college at 16 as well at Boston College. So
Nice.
it's kind of like a
Nice.
hereditary family thing, that maternal
Being
legacy.
smart.
Yeah,
Yes, the maternal side and that
E
smart Caribbean
exactly,
side.
the
I get you.
maternal. So it was really cool. And in terms of high school, basically got one of the highest GPAs the school ever had. I was like a 5.4, something like that.
Nice.
Took all the AP classes. So to the point, by my senior year, I was taking Harvard class and I was in school, high school. And by my senior year, they just put me in the library. I said, please just put me in the library. There's no more class for me to take. And I would just read, for the whole day and then go home. Basically, I had maybe
Right.
one class,
Right.
like an elective class, and that was it. Graduated top of my class. Went to MIT, of course, at 18. And from there, I came in with a lot of credit and just went wild and took a bunch of classes. So the normal course load is four classes. There's my hand.
Mhm.
Four classes. I was
Mhm.
taking 7, 8 classes. and with the
Wow.
credit. So by the time I was a sophomore, I was taking all graduate classes, quantum physics, statistical physics, dark matter, relativity, all that type of stuff. So oftentimes I was like usually the youngest person in the class. One class I took my freshman year was general special relativity, and I was like one of
Mm,
the only. There was like two of us. It was one of those classes that had like 100 people, and then it narrows down. So it was, by the time the class was done, and it was really crazy. That class, the test asked us. The last question was how to build a particle accelerator. And do that in 20 minutes. So that was kind of
wow.
type of rigor that was
Yeah.
involved. Um, did that, and so I actually got three majors at MIT. So I did something called mechatronics,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the engineering combined, mechanical, electrical, computer systems. I literally took a class called How to Make Almost Anything. How to make almost anything.
Oh, I need
So
your
3D
brain.
printing, yeah, it was cool. Soldering,
Yeah.
circuitry, Bluetooth, all this stuff. Really, really cool. Did that, and then went into international humanities. So
Mm-hmm.
everything from Latin American countercultural politics, Black feminism, Asian feminism. Took one class about Beyonce and how she relates to as a feminist figure. Really cool
Right,
stuff.
right, right.
Film, Quentin Tarantino, took those classes, and then also did my thesis actually in gender bias in the workplace, how bias that women face in terms of getting positions and jobs. And then,
Mm.
of course, the big claim to fame you guys know is quantum engineering.
All
So I
right.
made my own major at MIT called quantum engineering, which, long story short, it's that thing that explains all the sci-fi movies. It's that if a character needs to travel through time or whatever, it's quantum something. And so that's what quantum engineering is. It's this the magic that takes us from this century to the next century. And so that's what my company does. Conduit is we make that magic happen
Happen.
today. We bring the future to today. So really, really cool. To summarize Conduit is we call it by computers for people, by
Gotcha.
computers for people.
Thank
So in summary, we have two major projects right now, mainly focused in the COVID space. One of them is actually finding treatments with the White House. We're alongside Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, but we're some of the youngest people to ever do it. Shout out to my CTO, Logan. He's the one who's really leading the science part of it. So I got to give him his credit.
you.
He's killing it. He's super genius too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other product is the Nanosplash that you heard of before, where it's a bottle. Just spit into the bottle, no nasal swab, no anything, and it tells you if you have COVID or not in 30 minutes or less. Very, very short period of time, non-intrusive, and most importantly, it adapts to new variants. New variants, and Logan is the chief inventor of that. I just help make everything kind of happen.
Okay.
And so he's the science brain. So I got to give credit to my guy Logan, and of course the
Nice.
rest of my team, which includes Black women from across the world, from the 305 to the Caribbean, from Trinidad, and we've got all different types of people in the company. People that didn't go to college, people that went to Harvard. So it's really cool. It's this very eclectic vision that I think when you look at Black history and you look at the history
Mm-hmm.
of movements, is what they all kind of wanted, which is all of us to kind of get along and do cool stuff together like this. Yeah.
So, for my next question, what I do want to get to, because last night I have a lot for you,
You're right.
but but to condense it, I want you to explain to those who don't understand, especially how beautifully you did. What is quantum physics? Because then in its poetry, I wanted to be connected to how it related to creating a technology for the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to start with the academic definition of it, and then work to my kind of appreciation of it. So quantum physics is break down the word. So quantum, it's Latin. It's a Latin word from the root word quanta. Think quantitative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Counting.
Okay.
Literally means quanta, to count. In
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, cuanto, right? How many?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's from the same root word. So quantum physics, it talks about physics that works in integers, one, two, three, four, five. It works in these integers. And it turns out that the subatomic world, the microscopic world, the atom world, works in these integers, again, of one, two, three. There's no decimals really in the subatomic world. It's not
Right.
1.2, 1.5. So the way I would
It's
explain that,
absolutes.
yeah, there's absolutes. Everything's concrete. Ironically, everything's concrete.
Mm.
And the way I explain that is think of like a country. The fertility rate of a country might be 2.3 kids. every couple makes 2.3 kids, but you're never going to find, right, someone with 2.3 kids. You're going to find someone with two or three or one or zero or five or 10 integers. So
Right.
the individual on the quantum level, on the subatomic level, acts differently than the larger macroscopic level, the
Mm-hmm.
macroscopic level. So
Mm-hmm.
that's more the sort of straightforward academic part of it. What I love about quantum physics, it's really beautiful, is actually how ambiguous it is. The
Mm-hmm.
same way, again, how a society, you can say, okay, we got the GDP and we've got the inflation and we've got this economic measure, but an individual, they might be into poetry or to art, or they might have this whole rich history. And so it's appreciating the ambiguity of the individual. For me, for quantum physics, I love it because it doesn't give you what you want. It's more elusive than that. It's got a bit of a
Right.
sort of cattiness to it, a bit of kind of a swagger to it. It says, no, 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 you can't control me exactly. I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what I want.
Right.
The
Right.
deterministic physics, Newtonian, is
It's an
very,
Aries.
yeah,
Yes.
it's very boom, 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 boom. Okay, you drop a ball, it falls. This is going to be the energy. This is the speed
Mm-hmm.
every time. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. Quantum says, no, well, maybe I feel like going up today. Maybe I feel like phasing through the floor today. And so it's really, really unique. And it has all this nuance to it that just makes it so beautiful. And again, it has this ambiguity where things start to, we see the world in terms of binaries,
Right.
left or right, up or down. So I said before that it is what's called discrete. That's the fancy word. It's one, two, three, four, five. But
Okay.
they have that very concreteness. But on the other side of that coin of quantum physics is it has this ambiguity to it, where the binaries of life begin to merge into one. It's unitary. Male and female become one, up and down become the same thing. They coexist. Yin
Mm-hmm.
and yang, all the sort of things we think of as opposing things coexist. And it's only when we try and observe it, understand it, kind of bring it into our world on this macroscopic level, that then the universe says, okay, I'll show you this one half of the binary. I'll show you that left. I'll show you that right. I'll show you that up. I'll show you that down. And so the point being, same like poetry, there's ambiguity there where things coexist in a sense that is intangible, a way that you can't say, but a way that you can feel and experience, which is really
Right.
awesome.
You just made me realize that the as above, so below probably is a realm of quantum.
Right. Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that just hit me right now, which is actually very cool. S- with that understanding, how then did you come into this world of marrying this unique poetic view of science to this very random nuance of a pandemic and COVID?
Right.
Because right, because in particularly I have a medical background, and I directly said in March 2020, right, that I'm like, if they can go up that far up your nose,
Mm,
they can take a swab in your mouth.
mm.
So when I saw your technologies,
Right.
I was like, bam.
Right.
So
Right.
help me get to that poetic science, to this abnormal nuance, and how you were able to relate the two so that we may look to be able to come back to our normal, not a new normal.
Right, exactly. And so it's interesting that our story with it is that there is this sort of holy grail in the world of quantum physics.
Hmm.
It's called the quantum computer. The
Yeah.
quantum computer. And what the quantum computer does is it tries to leverage that ambiguity I told you about, this world where binaries coexist,
Hmm.
and use that to basically do magic, do things we've never done before.
Right.
Currently, we are not yet there. And so, my job as a technologist is to build that bridge to get us there. And hopefully get us there in a way that is helpful for everyone, that doesn't just impact one group, but everybody equitably. And
Right.
so our job again is to build that bridge. So I made Conduit as the human engine to get us there. And thereby I said, okay, well, quantum computers don't exist yet. But there's this thing, it's sort of the pre-quantum, which is supercomputers.
Hmm.
Supercomputers.
Hmm.
And if you get enough computing power together, you can simulate this quantum computing aspect. It's called a classical quantum simulation. Classical quantum simulation.
Okay.
And so what you might see in the articles is, hey, quantum computers are going to blow us away. Boom, 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 boom. Supercomputers are still holding on. They're holding on. They're like those old school radios, those old TVs back in. They're holding
Mm.
on. They're like the Nokia phones. You drop them and they're still strong. And so we said, okay, we can use that to build this bridge to the future. So fast forward, we built this network. We premiered at MIT Museum at the end of 2019. We have Google there, Amazon, and actually an MIT professor that compares us then to the next Apple and the next Steve Jobs. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I read that about you.
Yeah, it's really, really
Yeah,
cool. I was
yeah,
super
yeah,
impressed, to be honest, because
yeah.
he lived, during his time, and so really cool.
And to be
And
compared as a young Steve Jobs is, especially
yeah,
as a black man,
especially yeah, so
yeah, I
really,
love
really
that.
cool.
Like, yeah,
And then
I
fast
like
forward.
nerds. I like nerds, guys.
Yeah, there's awesome. They run the
Keep
world. So, then
going.
fast forward into that was end of 2019. And
Hmm.
so we were in the drug discovery space and we are trying to kind of maneuver and figure out where we could be. And so then when the pandemic happens or the lockdown happens, I guess you'd say in March 2020, is there was this huge opportunity for new approaches, new ways to do things, and that's really where we came in as this younger group, this more diverse group, this more sort of far out thinking group. Where
Yeah,
okay, now we get a seat at the table, not just a table, but the highest table, which was the White House High Performance Computing Consortium. High
mm,
Performance
mm,
Computing Consortium. And again, IBM, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and so we're one of the again the obviously younger companies, smaller companies, blacker companies, diverser companies, whatever you want to say, that's really doing it, which is really
right.
amazing. Again, that work's led by Logan. And actually, speaking to the poetic part of it, is that Logan actually is a writer himself, and he writes poetry and writes science fiction stories. And so it was just amazing. We were able to connect, and we connected a year earlier because we wanted to make an impact. We wanted to do something even before the pandemic. We said, hey,
Yeah,
we want to do something that changes the world. And so then lo and behold, this happens and we end up connecting. And fast forward, he's now designing this a new approach to find treatments, not just for SARS-CoV-2, this current COVID-19 pandemic we're seeing now, but future coronaviruses. We're very long term thinkers like that. And so
yeah.
then Nanosplash came out of how the connection there came out of another project, a sort of later project, the future project after that, we call NanoCAD, which is, hey, let's
Okay.
use computers to simulate nanotechnology. And so that project, we didn't flesh it out too much because we knew it'd be such a long project, it'd be like 10 years out. But the point was, it was the bridge thematically, thinking wise, said, okay, we want to make physical products again that have this quantum bent to them, this quantum vibe, this quantum inspiration. And that's where really where Nanosplash came out of. And but we worked, and just from a product perspective, product design perspective, we worked from the user backwards. So we saw
Mm,
everybody with the nasal swabs. I had my nasal swab story. I was doing my thing. I was going at the Walgreens, and I didn't have. I wasn't in a car, and
hmm.
so I'm picking my nose with this nasal swab, and this car of like 7 people come, and they're all staring me down, crying
Mm,
tears,
right.
just pick up my nose. So it's so embarrassing, and so it was like, okay, we
Yeah,
got to change. We got to do something different. And
yeah.
again, leveraging that diversity, we had Logan, of course, flesh out the science aspect and how nanotechnology, Nanosplash, plays into
Hmm.
it. But also we had, people design it as well. One of the designers at the bottom was Ebony Stepney, a black woman, graphic designer. So we had a really wide experience, and we also have other team members, Joanna Lugo, who's had experience with marketing consumer brands. So we built
Hmm.
this again. It's very much so that movie. It's that movie with the
Yeah,
young
yeah.
people. Yeah, it's that movie where you got the black guy, you got the white guy,
Right,
you got all the token roles kind of filled out.
right, right,
And then
right.
we do our thing. So it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool.
So, and I actually like that you brought up the movie aspect to this. I do want to go into the accuracy of this test, but one of the things, again, too, in my beginnings, I said, microbiology hasn't changed since the dawn of existence. So when you get to a nano situation, you're literally boggling my mind because I'm like, wait, that's even more concise. Because if you could say
Yeah.
microbiology hasn't changed since the dawn of time, then you get to a nano, not even micro, but nano situation, how precise that could be. So, in that, how precise is your testing on one end? And then the second part of it is for the person who's kind of like me. And this is what I really
Mm,
want our audience to understand about you and why I
right.
actually am so elated to be the one who was picked by you. I am a very iRobot type of Will Smith person.
Right, right.
So when
Yeah.
you say certain things to me, like you're
Mhm.
going to use nanotechnology and synthetic biologies and da 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 da, I'm like, what does that mean?
Right,
Explain to me its accuracy, but also not only the way you have moved technology in a more advocating way
right.
for medicine and for diversity and people of our stance, because in particularly with medicine we already know the discrepancies, insurance, all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
But your mentality and how you brought this up to bring it to a community in a more authentic, um, available way that isn't invasive. I
Mhm.
really want you to be able to speak on, because we need our advocates not only in the political world but obviously in the scientific world, and I'm just so
Right.
delighted that you're there. So I want to just point that out, you know.
Absolutely, and thank you. Yeah, so for us, we're really excited because we're designing the test now, and so we anticipate it to be really accurate, 90%, 95% above.
Nice,
And so
nice.
that's really helpful. I have my mom actually, she got tested a few months ago. She had to make an appointment up in Boston, and man, it was like in the corner, it was in the back where like all the, I guess the garbage was. It was kind of weird,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah, and they were out. It was like, yeah, it was just really. It was like the hospital was super nice, and then the testing part was really slummy. It was kind of weird in the same building, and she didn't
Hmm.
know how deep they go.
Right, right. Like for
Yeah,
me, that's exposure. But keep going, because
yeah. It's
there's
you
no,
know,
yeah. Keep going.
so that she's sitting outside in the middle of the day, right? Like 12 in the middle of the day, and they're like, okay, here you go, sit down, and okay, then put your neck back, and
Yeah.
then so the lady's holding her nose while she puts this nasal swab. My mom was like, it was
Right,
like
right, right.
crazy.
Like,
You think your
what
body's gonna
the?
electrified. And so
Yeah.
she hated it. She hated it. She had to stop herself from pushing the lady back, right?
Quite
And you got to hold it.
uncomfortable too, right?
So
Quite
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable, and it's right in the middle of the day. You're sitting on a chair. It's not like you're in a lobby. It was like you're in a
Right,
chair just
right.
outside. It was so strange. And then so then they have the at home ones now, and those are in general less accurate, but also is that they have like 12 steps to them. So
Yeah,
there's more room for human error.
yeah,
Especially you got to remember is that the people most at risk for COVID-19 are the people who are at risk in general, particularly
right.
kids, the elderly, people that have cancer, what have you. So I mean, it's hard to
His
imagine.
conditions. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to imagine. Again, I told you I grew up around a lot of older people. I know older people, so it's hard for me to imagine.
Them
Okay,
go right. That's a
right?
great
Like,
point.
what? How
Yeah,
long? And no,
that's a
this
great
is not
point. That's a
that's
great
just not a
point.
thing. And so that was one perspective, and another perspective. Speaking to that, my humanities background. I mentioned the Black feminism classes I was taking. Shout out to Sandy Alexander at MIT. She's
Mm-hmm.
the Black feminism teacher there, one of the teachers. And I was taking one class like called humanization,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a class about how society makes things seem human or makes people seem less human, seem subhuman.
Mm,
And
mm.
one big thing was how bodies of color, people of color, and their bodies have been such a experiment, such a subject,
Yeah, very
um,
true.
and it goes back to surgeries. A lot of surgeries were done, experiments, medical techniques were done on slaves without
Yeah,
anesthesia.
right.
Without anesthesia, George Washington's teeth were made out of from his slaves.
The
They're from the
whole
slaves' teeth.
OBGYN practice was created that way.
Right. Exactly. And and the same thing. It's not, and it goes across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the there was a huge field and information, an influx of information from the Nazi concentration camps, from their experiment.
Yes. Yes.
So
True.
just wild stuff. So consistently, there's been an invasion of people of color, of the oppressed, the historically oppressed, especially women, of course, through
True.
time. And so for me, as a product maker, product design, my first thing was like, okay, we got to make something that's non-invasive. That was
Thank
my
you.
first
Like
thing.
thank
Yeah, that was
you.
my
Like
first thing. My first thing.
yeah.
So It's even, and I'm big into nutrition too. I think we talked about it a little bit.
That's gonna
Is you
be
think
my
about the
next question. You know it.
yeah, I've seen
Keep
that
going.
viral kind of post, right, where they talk about, well, I don't know what's in my aspirin, and I don't know what's in my food, and I don't know, so it's okay with me taking so forth and so on. And one, I mean, yeah, do your choice. This whole thing's about your choice. But
Right.
my point, when I saw those things, I'm like a big nutrition guy. I'm like, well, that's why I don't eat those things. That's why I don't. I look at the ingredients. That's why I look up the chemicals. That's why I look up the vitamins. That's why I look up the all that type of stuff.
I could
So
hug you. Keep
yeah,
going.
so it's like, hey, and I think that's why we are so happy to be in the space, because
Right.
again, we're this diverse company. We're doing it because we want to help people. I mean, again, I grew up around older people. I know what it's like, and so it's like I feel like we're creating something that people can really trust. You know what I mean? Which I think is really
Yeah.
important. It's not just kind of big so and so, big whatever
Yeah.
industrial complex. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
you're seeing my face, you're seeing my background. So again, I think we occupy this unique space where yes, we're really young, we're the company, but at the same time, it's like we have the expertise. We're doing it. The product makes sense. We're not trying to take your data. And so we have where you can trust us. We're diverse enough, especially we can trust us, not just a certain color,
Hmm.
a certain race, a certain gender. It's not monolithic like that. And I think that's really
Right.
important now in this time period of the uncertainty of the pandemic, of getting back to normal, is building back that trust factor, building that trust
Yes.
factor with the things that we're consuming and the things we're putting in our bodies and the society that we're living in.
Yes. Yeah. Let me ask you too, since you have that part of you that I was like, yes, do you see a space and place in our future that science can help get people to understand the importance of nutrition as well as the importance of monitorization of their health with physicians, so on? But we are completely what we digest. And
Right.
having people in the medical world who actually are looking towards diseases, but with the understanding of the breakdowns of how things can um, manifest in the body, becoming too acidic or making it more alkaline, so on and so forth. Do you see there in your work to be a marriage to that, especially using quantum physics
Absolutely.
in any
I mean,
way?
so I mean, I'll say, just speaking to the current state, like you were talking about, I've seen that problem, and literally in
Hmm.
my day to day. Like I have there was a surgeon that I knew,
Hmm.
and he was on the COVID floor, and he was risking his life every day to save people, help people, all that type of stuff. And he would talk about, hey, I've got it in my hair, I've got it in my clothes, I have to wash up every day before I go home, so forth and so on. And he's doing this for years and years and years. And this is my guess. I think what happened as we started to overflow these hospitals is that they started to lose their practices and sort of the protocol. I've seen that at least in
Oh,
Georgia and across
complete.
America.
Yeah, I think practices and protocol completely went
Yeah.
out the window
And
for a
so
new
he
practice and protocol.
right, and so he ends up getting COVID, and then in some crazy twist of events, he ends up in a COVID induced coma.
Hmm.
And I remember his wife was saying, "Hey, it's in the gut. It's in the gut. You guys got to check out the gut. You got to check out the gut. It's in the
I
gut."
said the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
keep going. I'm sorry.
and they being kind of the establishment, whatever you want to say, is they didn't do that. He passed away. And
Wow.
so then she's now left alone with three kids, and just trying to kind of make it work. So I've been, and it's so crazy. So I just, her name's Sayla Halim.
My
Shout
dad
out
was
Sayla. I remember you. See, I
okay,
didn't
Sayla.
forget.
My dad, my I went through the same thing, Sayla,
Yep.
and my dad passed for the same. I hear you, Sayla. I hear
Yep.
you. Keep
And
going.
so I didn't forget about you. See, I didn't forget about you.
Yeah.
And so I've seen, and that's the thing, I've seen some research articles that talk about gut flora, gut bacteria. So it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to be a little, it's starting to nudge its way through. Obviously, it hasn't really hit the mainstream. Going back to my humanities background, is that for
Yeah.
me, again, international humanities. So I've studied Zen Buddhist texts, like D.T.
Mm-hmm.
Suzuki, and I've studied
Mm-hmm.
Tao Te Ching and stuff like that, and Lao Tzu and Confucius, and they talk about, they knew the chakra systems and the acupuncture, and it's the gut, the
Yep.
chakra, your chakra
Yep.
systems in your gut.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that's why it's so interesting to me, because again, being a scientist and kind of this new age, new world, you're learning new things that these guys, these people said thousands of
New
years ago,
thousands.
thousands of years ago. And to that point, specifically with quantum, bring it together. Specifically, there's a physicist named Schrodinger, and
Mm,
he created something called the Schrodinger equation that describes quantum physics, how all matter fundamentally works, how it's like a wave.
mhm,
He studied the text of Eastern spirituality, like the Bhagavad Gita, the Rig Veda, Tao Te Ching, and that directly, consciously, purposefully influenced him. He says, "I don't have a language to describe these things. I don't have the verbiage." And so that's what actually inspired. Okay, here's this equation, right? Here's this perspective on how to understand all matter. So it has had a direct influence. And I think in terms of talking the quantum aspect of things is that there's a huge area for companies like Conduit or other companies doing great things to really create technology that is aware of how quantum can create new types of technology that isn't
mhm.
possible today. And but the core of it is you have to start, of course, from the human first. I have a quote
Right.
that says that technology begins and ends at our common humanity.
Mhm. I love that.
Technology begins and
Begins
ends at our
and
common
ends like that.
humanity. And so you've
Mhm.
got a lot of times what technologists go wrong is that they try to make the technology first. You can't make the
Mhm.
technology first. It has to be the human first. The human
Yes.
first.
Yes.
You gotta bring the human first. That's the most important. And so with Nanosplash, we didn't design it saying, hey, let's make this quantum thing. We said, hey, let's make this cool thing, this thing that wouldn't it be cool if you could just spit into a bottle? Wouldn't that
Right.
be cool? You know, that's where
Right.
we came from. And then we said, oh, okay, well, how do we do that? How do we, and
Right.
that's where the nano came in, and that's where Logan fleshed out the details, and we're testing it with this lab and that lab, and so that's really how it came. But it's starting with that human aspect. Yeah.
How soon and how soon do you think this will be like available on a mass scale?
Well, we're really excited. We've been grinding. So I expect this to be out later this year. I'm really excited,
Nice.
especially overseas. Actually, overseas, particularly in countries like in Africa,
Mm.
because they've had a challenge in terms of getting vaccines or just getting treatments, access to care, more so than America. So I've talked to a lot of doctors there, and I've got a lot of interest in terms of saying, hey, we need something that to make that choice. Like I said, where if you whether you want to take the vaccine, you don't want to take the vaccine, you have that choice. That's what it's all about.
Right.
You know what
Informed
I'm saying?
consent, guys. That's part
Yeah,
of medicine. Informed consent, like
right. That's what it's about.
giving
And
you
putting
options.
exactly. So that's what I want to do. I want to put health back into your own hands. That's what
Right.
when I talk about Nanosplash, I always say that we're putting your health back into your own hands, and that's
Mhm.
so important. I want to say that because at least in America, in our own kind of bubble, is that we're seeing these institutions begin to fail us, whether it be the economics or the political, the hospitals, what have you. These institutions, these complexes. I just talked to a friend of mine, and she has a daughter. She's like, the schools don't. They're just pushing kids through. They're pushing kids through. They don't care if they learn. They're pushing kids through.
Yep.
The teachers. I have teachers who are friends. I have friends with teachers, and they're like, they're exposing us, and they want us to go to school. Okay, now they're going to remote, and they're not. They're going back and forth. They're inconsistent. So these
Yep.
institutions are really
Yep.
failing us. And one of the
Yep.
they're based of two solutions, right? Either fix these institutions, which are very challenging because it's this hydra that's got all these different heads to it,
Mhm.
or you put more power in the individual, which at its core really is an American. I mean, it's a universal idea, but particularly American history. It's not,
Right.
at the core of when you go to the 1800s, it's this agrarian, guy working on his farm. He's
Yeah.
got he's he protect his farm. He's got his family. He's selling his goods on the market. So I think happened in the industrial. I know what happened in the industrial revolution is that as we started to go away from these sort of agrarian roots and we put more emphasis, burden, responsibility, dependence on these institutions to feed us, educate us.
Right.
Look at any sort of kid that succeeds in school. 9 times out of 10, they're doing something outside of school.
Yep.
They're doing something
Yep.
outside of school, tutoring,
Yep.
whatever, videos, whatever. They're doing something outside of school. So you can't depend on these institutions, but whatever it is, whatever angle it is, to get you through. You got to have someone, that individual, on a family level, on a unit level, to get you through. And so that's what we're doing with Nanosplash. Again, is putting your health back into your own hands, and that's what we do.
I just want our community and our people in our audience to understand how conservative what you just said and the values in that structure and how it is not always negative for us. Putting certain things back into our own hands actually strengthens the same people you want to push a democracy, right?
Right.
So it's just like, so I love that, because I just think people have such this daunting idea of what we truly are, or was giving a negative connotation of what we truly are. And that grabbing yourself by the bootstrap type of thing, whether it be health, education, wealth, whatever, that's a little bit more of a conservative mindset. And I just want people to understand that it's not always damnation, it's just strengthening self. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has damnation to it, both sides. But I'm just saying,
Right.
but the one part that I do want to also unveil, because I wanted to definitely give time for your technologies to be addressed, but I also wanted to jump into um, something that you said that actually developed this ability to be you, and it's being exposed to this Renaissance man type of lifestyle and Renaissance entrepreneurial lifestyle. How much of that is embedded in not only going through the waters and waves of being through schools like MIT as a black man, but in being like in realms of the White House as a young black man doing something for the first time? You
Right. So
know,
how does
how
that
much
Renaissance?
of that Renaissance man help push you through any of those adversities, those speed bumps or
Right.
whatever, things that got you to be where you are now?
Right. The great question. Really, it's funny is the I remember I was in the like AP literature class when I was in high school, and the teachers, and of course the kids are like, why are we reading this book? And it's, well, one day you're gonna need this book for conversation somewhere that might help you.
Right.
And I knew that. I was like, I didn't ask the question. I was like, that's why I read this book. But
Right.
when I went to MIT, that was the thing that actually really connected me to other people, was the humanities background. Because equations are so boring. And I'm saying that as a scientist, I'm saying that as a physicist, they're so boring. They're so
They are.
dry and oh my goodness.
They
And
are.
it's really that humanities thing. So, just for networking example, when I'm at a I describe myself when I say the humanities and mechatronics. I just describe I'm the perfect cocktail party date. Perfect
Ah,
cocktail party date. That's how I describe myself in a nutshell. So whatever,
I'm
like
with
whatever
you.
it is,
I have many
like
of those. I'll call you. I have many of
thank
those.
you, thank
Jesus.
you. Like I
I'll call
remember
you quick.
I had an advisor. It was actually pretty funny. I had an advisor come to this dinner we had for the Conduit team, and the team members are talking. Oh, Ryan, you know so much about history and stuff like that. And the advisor, he says, "Well, Ryan, do you know about Darius?" And I go, "Well, which Darius?" So it's like that, but that builds a conversation. It starts a conversation, and now we're friends to this day. Just small stuff like that, or 2, 3 in the morning, you're in college dorm rooms and you're talking about, just not just quantum physics, right? But like again, like I said, those links between quantum physics and Tao Te Ching and even I was talking to I have a friend. I think I said this in the event I was at yesterday for Blackathon. Is I have
Which was
friends that
very
are
good.
Chinese. They're from Hunan, and we'll
Right.
be talking about Tupac and how Tupac was amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, they there are these scientists that here, there, and the other place, and while we're listening to jazz music, and then we're talking about Peking operas, and so humanities connect humans. That's what it is. It's beautiful. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
No, you just made me, because I actually wanted to say this too. Like, my thing is ceramic arts,
Mhm.
and I find it funny speaking to you, because one of our logo is thought is life, imagination is a transformation between the two, right?
Wow.
So, and I bought that out because of the children and families I was working with, and it drove me crazy when they would say I have no imagination. And I was like, well, a lack of a child's imagination is a lack of an adult's innovation.
Mm,
So to hear how artistic scientists are is actually a very cool but weird dynamic that I don't think I
right.
really put together when till now, till speaking to you. Even when you said the poetic nature of quantum, I'm like, I even understand why certain things intrigue me because of the
Mhm.
artistic side of things that make you more intellectual, or
Right.
make you because I always say I can't stand a highly educated person, but an
Mhm.
intellectual I'll be with all day,
Yeah.
right? So having that connection, especially with And especially I find this with black men, they have a great sense of the word of poetic spoken word, that I'm just wondering how much of a scientific realm is being suppressed because this art of the spoken word isn't being exuberated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
our next scientist, president, architect, even boys who I was like, you probably were a kid that broke a lot of shit. Excuse my language, guys.
Mm.
But you probably broke stuff because an engineer just wants to fix it back together. It's not the
Yeah.
fact that he broke it, he just wants to know how it works. But somebody like a mom would say, why'd you break it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I
Right.
just want you to also speak to that because you're literally giving me this dawn of my own words of thought is life, imagination is a
Mm.
transformation of the two. But I think you're literally the manifestation of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And
You're
it's
welcome.
it's so funny too because when you look at the great companies, to me that's like Sony, that's Apple, stuff like that. Pixar, I love
Hmm.
Pixar.
Yeah,
Is
me too.
at the core, yeah, at the core of what their origins, when the founders were there, and it was really in its heyday. I'm not talking
Right.
about the money they made, but I mean really how they
No.
made people feel, how they innovated, how they thought
Yeah.
outside the box.
Yeah.
It is they were artists. If you look at Sony, Sony's probably. I mean, Sony. They literally they were referring to Sonus, the god of music, the Greek god of music. Like
Mm.
it was their
Oh, wow. I know that.
foundation.
And I never realized that. I'm sorry. Duh.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
keep going.
it was at the foundation, and the
Wow. That's so
Walkman. We all
cool.
know the Walkman was one of their big things,
Big
and
things.
that came from they're one of the executives was flying to America, and he says he's an opera singer. And he said, I want to listen
Mm.
to opera on the plane. How can I do that? It's okay. Well,
Mm.
then we say, okay, how do we make something that can record
Play
music, play it back?
and play
And you got
back.
the Walkman. You got the
There you
Walkman.
go.
Steve Jobs was a huge Bob Dylan fan, and a
I
huge,
didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, huge fan. That's why
Wow.
so much of his products were based off music, artists,
Music, music.
music.
Oh, got
And
it.
so that's really what's driven these companies. And so you'll see it. I mean, like I think I said in the Blackathon event yesterday,
Hmm.
is that the company I want Conduit to be is different from what you're seeing now, where it's so much monetization, where they're trying to
Thank you, sir.
take they're trying to give you less and take more, you know
Right.
give
Right.
you less and take
Right.
more. And I that's why I have no doubt, that I'm not surprised that Conduit succeeded. I'm not surprised Conduit will succeed in the future, because we understand that deeper karmic law where the more you give, the more you get.
Mm.
The more you
Mm.
give, the more you get.
Lem
So
I love that. Keep going, but I love that because not a lot of companies because you're right. We're in a
mm,
trajectory, especially like from 2030 to like own nothing and be happy. You know
mhm,
what I mean? So like
right.
I love that aspect of like how you just spoke that out. Like, yeah, they're about giving less and for you to be a company that's like, no, we're going to give you not only more, but give you the power to make your own choices.
Yeah,
That's
so
brilliant.
it's
That's
awesome. It's
brilliant.
awesome, and and there's a beauty to individuality. Like I've literally had people ask us in the
Yes.
past, the cousin so and so, and say, "Well, Ryan, what about Google and Amazon and Microsoft?" And I said, "We've got so much money, and they've got engineers and this and that." I said, "But they don't have Ryan Robinson."
I was just thinking, but they don't have Ryan.
Ryan
Like,
Robinson.
right.
And there's a beauty to that, because if you look at all these companies, you can tell when the founder is there or not there. You can look at the
Yeah.
history of the products they made.
Yeah.
You can see it. You can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that is that what happens in those companies, they have the money. They have, of course, they've been there for forever. They're like these old dinosaurs now. But what
Right.
happens if you could be super? I have friends who go to these companies. They're super brilliant, right? You're
Yeah.
like IQ 150, whatever. You've got your master's degree, but you're working on a small project of a smaller project that has no relevance that's not going to see the light of day.
Right.
I've had friends that work on 10-year projects, and they just say, "Well, we're going a different direction." So
Mm.
what
Mm.
happens, and what's going on is that it has been going on is you have some of the most brilliant people in the world being stifled, uh, and or just simply choosing careers that don't really give back like that. And so there's so many brilliant people. I was blessed to be around them as I went through school, and I think one of the things that really just distinguishes us is saying, hey, we want to have an impact. I mean, we're willing to step out from under sort of the shadow of these institutions and these companies and make our own thing. And it's really, really beautiful. And what I think what I provide to the company is that the irony of these success stories, the Sonys and the
Mm,
Apples and the Googles, whatever, is that it's very literary, because what happens, you start up this man versus machine. You know, you're like the avant-garde, you're this revolutionary, you're and so forth and so on. 1984 ad as an easy example.
right,
Then
right,
you're saying,
right.
ironically, you get rewarded by that success and you become the machine. Your reward for the success is to become the machine.
A
Good
machine,
job.
right,
You're different. Now you're the
right,
same.
right.
Now you're the same.
Wow, wow,
And
that's
so
kind of true. Wow.
exactly. And
Especially
so
for someone who's so against becoming that, that's kind of why I feel like it's like use the title, don't become the title.
yeah, yeah.
Because part of it, especially like even in your room being like that, you're this scientist I would love, but how do you not become the the
Right. The villain in the story. Yeah.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
like right, but not
Right.
to cut that, but I was just like, wow, you,
Right.
it's true what you
Exactly.
just said, but yeah, keep going, I'm sorry.
And so what really is cool about what we do, it's intentional, you know, and it's purposeful, as we stand out, you know. And so specifically, as I call it the cake analogy, and I'm going to break it down.
Mm,
It's especially helpful for my business people out there, anyone trying to just do something that stands out, my artist, is that there's three levels to an organization, and particularly in standing out. There's the resource level, the expertise level, and then there's the human level. And so
mm-hmm.
the resource level, okay, so say we're talking about baking cakes. So you got the
Yeah,
eggs. I got eggs, you got eggs. Okay, so someone's gonna buy my eggs or your eggs because maybe they're cheaper, they're bigger. It's a quantitative thing. It's very numeric, matter of fact. Okay, that's one level. So that's the resource element. Assuming that we're equidistant from whatever the person buying, all that type of stuff. So
right,
then
right.
next level, expertise. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now we both know how to make a cake. So there's a smaller group of us compared to the people who just happen to have eggs. Anyone can kind of get a chicken. Well, not now, but before, anyone could
Right,
have
right.
chickens, raise the egg, you know, get the eggs, sell them, so forth and so on. But maybe not everyone knows how to bake a cake. So you're in a smaller niche. You're a smaller niche. Then
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're so now we got two bakeries and we're across the street from each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're competitors on the same street, the same suburb. And so, okay, well, how do we distinguish ourselves? Well, what you do is you make a unique type of cake. You make, say, a
Right.
special recipe that your grandma handed down to you that they can only
Mm,
get at Anna's Bakery. And that's the human element. So you want to combine the human element, the creativity, with the resource element, your expertise, and then the resource element with whatever that may be, the eggs in this example.
right, right. I love that. I love that. So that being said, what I have a question for before I ask the last question, I
Mhm.
really want to get this out. In your journey through your working, give me a book that was most pivotal or profound to you that you would recommend to the audience.
Oh man, I would say Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell.
I like that.
Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
Myth. Now, my second part to you is this. I usually like ending my interviews in this way, but you talk about, this life you went through, but there was a time and place where there was, adversity or we talked and you told me about like how intense it is to just be an MIT student,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, or even that childhood, things that you may have gone through, but you had parents that you were, that helped pull you through that.
Mhm.
For the child, the girl, the young boy, the old 16, 18-year-old you, what would you say to them? What would you tell them, to somebody who doesn't yet understand that they're the next you?
Um, Man, I would say I would say this. I love history, so I gotta give you guys a historical example.
Go ahead.
Is there was in the Roman history, there's the first emperor. His name was Augustus.
Mhm.
Augustus,
Mhm.
and in his reign, early into his reign, he does this unspeakable thing where he kills a baby.
Mhm.
He kills a baby. And okay, well, Ryan, why did he kill this baby? So this baby's name was Caesarean.
Mm.
Caesarean.
Mhm.
Okay,
Like
Ryan.
a
Okay, that was his name,
cesarean.
Caesarean.
Yeah, cesarean.
Who
Like
were
a
his parents? Who were his parents? Who were his parents? His parents were Julius Caesar and
Mhm.
Cleopatra.
That's true.
Julius, you're probably seeing where this is going. So
Yes,
Julius
yeah,
Caesar and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cleopatra.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And so you have it where Julius Caesar, for those who don't know, was a man that was so bold and so successful that he went against the biggest empire that had ever existed at that time and won.
Mhm.
Him and his little
Mhm.
army. Literally, it was a small part. It was 1/12 of a larger army. Fights the entire empire and wins. And
Mhm.
then the process ends up in Egypt, helps Cleopatra win her own civil war against her own brother.
Mhm.
Okay. And then
Mhm.
comes back and then reinstates the Roman Republic and makes it into an empire, takes
Mhm.
over the whole thing.
Mhm.
So when he gets assassinated and his heir, Augustus, comes into power and he learns that there's a son named Caesarion over in Egypt. He says, I gotta
Mhm.
get rid of that guy.
Right.
Because you're telling me that this guy is the son of someone that conquered an entire empire by basically by himself, by his little army, outnumbered 10 to 1, 20 to 1. Everyone was against him. And he's the heir to Egypt, a
Mhm.
prince of Egypt,
Mhm.
who came from a line of generals that worked with Alexander the Great, who never lost a battle,
It
who
sounds
never
very
lost
Haitian.
yeah. So exactly right. So with that, August says he's got to go. So my
Right.
point is that a lot of the challenges you may be seeing in your life right now, and you're trying to figure things out, is because someone, something, somehow they know what's meant for you, what's out
Right.
there for you, what's on the other side if you make it through this. So I would say whatever situation you're going through is that it's not when you're saying why me, why me, why me, or whatever you're going through. It's because you're you. It's because you're
Mm.
you. It's because they know, and so you're thinking I can only do this much. They know you could do this
This
much,
much. Yeah.
or it's off the
Mhm.
screen. You can't even see it yet.
Right.
You can't
Right.
even see it.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
you got to remember that is that, and thereby because of that, sometimes in your life that
I
success
love
will
that.
mean survival.
Mm.
Success when we say, right, I don't have all these things yet. I should have had this. I should have had that. It's coming. But you just got to remember is that right now, sometimes success just means making it through. At MIT, there's no honors. There's no magna cum laude. There's no summa cum laude. It's number one school in the world. Number one school, no honors, magna cum laude, summa cum laude, because they know that success, when the situation is tough, is
It's a pull
sometimes can be
through.
defined as just making it through, just surviving, getting to the other side. So I would say to
Wow.
all the people out there, whether you're 52, 25, 16, is that get through it. If you're like Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going, keep
Oh
going.
my gosh.
If you're willing to do that, if you're willing to do that, then the world is yours. The world is yours.
I think that has to be the most dynamic answer I've received for that ever. And I even have a lot of chills just hearing that. And it's so true, especially just the pull through. There's so much of that in people's workings that you forget what you've done and where you came from because you're still stuck on where you're trying to go. But the reality of just taking a breath and saying, damn, I got this far,
Yeah.
you know, is beyond true. What do you see also in closing with your brilliance and with this with your team and now with this technology, especially with the effect because the reality with the reality with science and with disease is there will always be a variant. There will always be something that
Right.
it's just not gonna that's how disease even lives. It's going
Right.
to because it doesn't want to kill the host, it dies
Right.
too, you know what I mean? So for our future in with your technologies, do you see what do you see for us for that coming back to our norm? How
Right.
soon do you think that that will happen? and again, I do feel that your technologies will be the dawn of getting back to our
Yeah,
norms. To be
thank you.
honest with you, I just wanted you to being here. Do you see it coming closer and sooner um, than expected? How much hope does humanity have in the fight against this and or any disease? Because disease is just part of
Right,
living. You know what I
right.
mean? Like we walk through 1,001,000 disease a day.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that medical background coming through. I
You
hear, I
like
hear it.
I'm telling
Yeah,
you, I come from it. Like I
yeah.
was
So
in medicine through SCARS one.
yep. So
Okay,
and
so
that's where we're coming from. Is with the team and everything. Is we like you just said. I mean, we knew there would be other variants. We made a test that can adapt to variants. We knew there'd be other coronaviruses. We made research that can adapt to other diseases. And actually, really quick, Nanosplash is just a line of products. It's gonna be for
ooh,
other diseases as well.
nice,
And so, yes, we're really excited. One of them we're actually really looking into and really excited for is HIV. Really, really
nice.
excited for that. Yeah, really
Oh, that'd be
excited. So
great.
yeah, so it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be really awesome, and you're gonna see it become more and more quantum like. There's something called quantum dots. All my quantum
Mm,
people know what that is. It's basically it's just a sensor. That's all it is. But
okay,
it's based on quantum. And so going back to normal is what I would say is that one, just to my people out there, I would say is that don't how would I say it? I say is don't let the word pandemic stop you from living your life.
in that order. Ooh, keep going.
What's going on is that by naming it, so viruses have existed forever. Specifically, coronavirus. I'll speak to that one. Was
Hmm.
discovered in 1960s, but is
Yes,
it's anticipated, expected it's been around for tens of thousands of years,
yes,
and it mutates so fast that it's actually called a quasi species. It's so unstable that
right,
it's not even a species. It's a quasi species. You
right.
can look this up. Look it up.
Yep,
And so
yep. He's look it up, guys. He's
yeah,
right.
it's true. And to give you another number, another idea is and viruses in general, specifically RNA viruses, which are known for replicating very quickly, is say with,
Mm-hmm.
with malaria, is that say a
Mm-hmm.
mosquito goes on you, gives you malaria, that virus that virus will then expand from one virus to more viruses than all the stars in the Milky Way combined in three
In that
days.
order. In
In
that
three
order.
days. So that's what we're dealing with. So when you're seeing, Omicron this, Delta that, is that, for me, it's strange because I'm from Miami. And so you have a hurricane coming, we'll call it Sandy, you know,
Right.
we'll call it
Right.
Tom, you
Right.
know,
Right.
so
Right. Something
yeah,
nice and easy and simple, and then
right. It's
something that's
okay.
norm in life. We're like pandemic,
Yeah.
omni, like
Yeah. So okay, Tom's coming Friday. Okay, well, let me put the shutters down. Let me get some
right.
groceries. So
Right.
the virus again, they've been here before. They're gonna be in there in the future. And honestly, if you talk to Logan, my CTO, he'll say there's so many other things, like you said, out there besides Corona. Is at its core just a common cold. At the core,
Right. At the core.
at the
Right.
core, that's all it
Right.
is. And so what you guys are seeing with the statistics and stuff like that, well, again, like I said, a lot is from the at-risk populations, people that
Right.
don't have necessarily the same equitable access to healthcare. And so the
Right.
real the way I explain is that you're seeing this pandemic, state of emergency, lockdown, all this type of stuff. There was already a
Mm-hmm.
pandemic going on before that, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a pandemic of nutrition.
Oh my
Pandemic of
God.
nutrition.
Thank you.
So
Ooh,
a
I'm
lot of
going up to visit you. Jesus. Just
so a
to
lot of
prick
the
your brain. Like,
I got you. And so a lot of the fatalities you guys are seeing are coming from people that are overweight, because part of what happens is
right.
the conditions that come along with being very heavily overweight is inflammation in the body. That's
Right.
one example.
Overdevelopment of
The stress on your
mucus.
joints, and
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's why you're seeing this as it is. But it was already a pre-existing pandemic, and then before that was the stress pandemic, the stress pandemic that's
Yeah.
causing your body to
Mm-hmm.
store your body. People don't realize your body it carries a lot of weight for you.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of punches for you. So when you're
Yeah.
we've been stressed out, you're getting a little weight, right?
Yeah.
That's your body saying, okay, I'm gonna hold on to this so you can keep moving, so
Yeah.
you can keep moving.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah.
body is a reflection of your lifestyle, reflection of your habits, but it's also it's keeping you going.
Yeah.
It's taking those hits for you so you can keep moving. And so
Yeah.
what's happened is that those stressful times where whatever bad relationship, bad job, whatever, bad food eating over time, everyone likes a slice of pizza now and then, is that your body saying, okay, well, so that you don't have to suffer, I'm gonna try and hold on to as long as I can, as long as I can, as long as I can. I'm gonna try and do the best with that burger that had meat that I don't really know what that
Right.
was,
Was.
you know.
And that cheese that's foreign
Right,
to my gut right now and
right,
messing with me, but I'll
exactly.
get that. I'll hold that for you.
So it's trying its best, and you just got to help it out,
Yeah.
doing what you can, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I would say, be your best friend is really how we're gonna
Mm,
make it through this. I hope that's what everyone learns from this: is you got to live life. You got to live life.
yeah.
That's so so
Yeah.
so important. You got to live life. You have to be your best friend. You got to be your own ally, and you have to be willing to say, I'm not going to necessarily again depend on these institutions to be my friend, because they're not your friend.
They
They're
don't
not.
care.
They're not your. Even the best
They
schools
don't
in the
really
world
care
are.
about us, guys. Like, come
Exactly.
on.
Even the best schools in the world are companies, and that's, it is what it is. But I think what America has lost in sort of the last 50, maybe 100 years is we went
Hmm.
from, again, like we are talking about, where we said, well, I don't trust them and had and the other thing and this and that.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. It got weird to distrust things. It got sort of stigmatized to distrust. But America was always about the individual. It was always about
Right.
individual rights. It was always about a
Right.
healthy suspicion. That's why we have checks
Right.
and balances.
Yes.
That's why we
Yes.
have the 10th Amendment that reserves rights for the states and the people. So
I love
these are
you.
American ideas. these
I
are
literally love you.
these
Like,
are
keep going.
historical ideas. So just have that help us every day. Question something. Question
Right.
something.
Right.
It's healthy for not only your mind but your spirit. And I asked that for myself. Wait, why am I indoors? Why do we live in houses? Well, then you look up. Okay, well, most of African Americans are vitamin D deficient. They're vitamin D deficient. So every day, just ask yourself a question,
We
and
need
that's
the sun, guys. I just want you to know that we
right.
need the
Exactly.
sun, guys. Like,
Right.
even when they actually, even part of that when they're like, well, when we were put into quarantining, and I'm like, so first of all, we're gonna block the most important way to take
Right.
care of is breathing properly,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna remove ourselves from one of the most efficiencies that
Yeah.
the efficiency that we need, which causes more of our deficiencies, which is the sunlight.
Right.
Help me, help you, help me, help you. Like, I don't understand. Like,
Mhm.
anyway, but out of respect of your time, and like I said, I don't even know, but if I can bother you, I truly will, because I'm just very much intrigued with mentalities that actually see a broader scheme of
Yeah.
things, and are not like just you know through propaganda, right?
Yeah.
But actually see something and looking for a real solution. I just want to know for the audience, not to like bombard you, but for anyone out there who either might be able to collaborate with you or just more intrigued, how could we find you? How could they connect to you? Where are you comfortable with giving our audience to reach out to you?
Right. Absolutely. Really, it's pretty straightforward. Email Ryan.Robinson. I'll spell it out for you guys.
Mm.
RYAN.ROBINSON at CONDUITCOMPUTING.com. I feel like I'm about the spelling bee. But Ryan.Robinson,
Right?
ConduitComputing.com. You guys can email
I'll
me,
just inbox you. No,
and
just
I'll
keep
do my best to
going.
respond. So, but I appreciate everybody coming today. Thank you.
And I appreciate you for being not only on the United States of Africa platform, but also on the Haitian American platform
Yeah.
that we've combined it. Yes, so we're so pleased to have you aboard, have you by. Um, you are my. I am Diana Levalus, but you are my new R&R.
Right. I like that.
Ryan Robinson is my
I
new
like that.
R&R. I'm like, if I need to get my mind clear about all this council nonsense,
Right.
I'll call it, because one of the things I will have to say is, since well before this, because I suffer from multiple sclerosis, I have other things, and I changed my life and became my own test dummy before I started throwing this out, right? And I completely changed my life. Like, I didn't tell you that I was dealing with this, you wouldn't look at me and say that's what
Right.
I'm dealing with, right? Um, and you would think that telling people about nutrition, especially in a lane and space of being a councilwoman, you would think that I'm telling people to shoot themselves in the head. With the way it's reacted to
Right.
our mayors, other councilwomen, our governor, everything. Literally, when I say It's about what you're eating.
Mhm.
Pneumonia has always been a problem. And on a lung with fluid in and around it, that makes no sense to put a ventilator on it. You would think I'm telling you to shoot yourself.
Right.
So to have people in different realms on a scientific level be able to say, not only is it about nutrition, but I also have a way to play in your realm too, and still give empowerment to the patient, I think is and luckily what the pandemic did was give us technology to truly have the right people connect with each
Yeah.
other.
Right.
It's to truly give a fighting force and chance to our norm and what norm should really be. I don't proclaim that new norm, but I do proclaim normality to come back to us. And
Yeah.
hopefully in that normality, it'll bring back an ancient space of doing for self. And I appreciate you being where you are and being that conduit
Thank
in
you.
medicine
Thank you.
and in sciences, to be also an advocate in that realm, because that's one thing I told you before. One of my
Mhm.
great mentors told me that he's like, we forgot to put advocate in
Right.
political spaces. Well, we
Right.
also forgot to put advocates in scientific spaces.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you are where you are. I'm glad I was able to get this connection with you, and I'm just more than honored and appreciate your time. And
Likewise.
again, hope that we get to speak again.
Yeah. Likewise.
But
Likewise.
I appreciate you. I thank you for your Saturday, and I will be looking forward to watching the next part of the link that you sent me, because I think it's a full 3 weekend
Right.
situation, right?
Right. I'm not gonna be
Because
on
it
there, but feel
oh,
free to.
but it looks interesting. You
Oh
were on
yeah.
last night, but then it populated my calendar from like Friday to Sunday.
Yeah.
So I
It's
was like,
really
oh,
interesting.
yeah, and I'm a nerd. Like I'm a nerd.
You're gonna love it,
He
man. You're gonna
you
love it.
guys got to see, because he was joking about this when we were conversing at first about being the nerd. But like you don't understand. Like I'm the nerd. I like the nerd, right? So like I love that, because I'm like, this is the time and day for the nerd, right?
Right.
So it's okay. They're coming female versions too. They come in females. He was talking about like,
Yeah.
oh,
We
I
need
didn't
you
get
guys.
none.
We
Like,
need you guys. The
yeah,
parties get lonely.
yeah,
The
you know.
parties get lonely. The cocktail parties.
I know we would be your date. I promise you, we're nerds too. They don't like us. We will be your date. So, anyway, but again, I appreciate you. Take care so
Anytime,
much,
guys.
and we'll
Have
talk
a good
soon.
one.
Okay,
See you guys.
take care. So I'll just going to minimize. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of today. I did go a little bit over 7 minutes, but I'm so happy you were able to be a part of our conversation. I'm glad to be back to you guys. It's been a while. 2020 was crazy, but I'll just let you know why for me, and also because my hack audience is on here. It's because we have a little one coming. I don't know if you could see it, but it says baby on board. So that's why I haven't been around, because I just found out that I'm going to be having a little one. So that being said, thank you so much for being a part. We will talk to you soon. Oh my gosh. And guys, let me stop. I am so sorry. During this conversation, I just saw that there were so many questions that hopefully I can get back to you. How do you um, order his test? In fact, I will get that out. If you want to contact Ryan directly, I do apologize. You have great questions back here that I didn't see while conversing. I wish I can get him back, but we'll try to bring him back to the stage. Please go on to his email. You could find him also on LinkedIn, Ryan Robinson, and his website, just Conduits, Conduit, the Nano splash, right? Google it online to see, and it should be rolling out very, very shortly on how to order the test. Um, I'm just trying to see other questions. Glad you had great points. Um, as we are in the month of Black History, Africa should express their own. And let me show you this, guys. 100% right. 100% right. Okay. 100% right on this question and this comment. Um, I just want for just to show, I will personally try to look out for you how to order the test as well. But again, just Nanosplash, do a quick Google search if you can. Ryan Robinson, he's also found on LinkedIn. We have the email that he gave out. Also, you can try to reach me, Diana Ravalis. You can find me on Facebook anywhere, and we'll get you that information on how to order the test. Um, as well, let me just see any other questions that I may have missed. I do apologize. I was so involved in the conversation. I did lose uh, going. Blessing code. Thank you guys. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. But again, I'm so sorry that I missed your questions. That was a really like intriguing conversation piece, and I just and oh, and you guys are giving great names and resources. This will all be saved. This will be brought to Ryan. And I hope you have a great Saturday. I said Sunday, Saturday, and we will contact you and hopefully get Ryan back to answer any questions that I did miss. I was on full screen and definitely into conversation. So I do apologize again. And I will make sure that I get all those questions out next time we have him on. So I hope you all well. Take care. Blessed. Happy. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. I am so happy to be back and hope to see you soon again. Take care. Bye.